Tell me, Mr. Franklin, have you ever known anyone with Alzheimer's?
No.
What if you could end all that suffering with a single pill? Give me till Monday morning, 48 hours. I'll give you results that'll skyrocket your stock price.
In the most advanced research facility in the world.
Wow.
Beneath its glassy surface, a world of gliding monsters.
A team of specialists is working against the clock.
Did someone order the fish?
On an experiment to benefit mankind.
Sharks never show any loss of brain activity as they age.
We're this close to the reactivation of a human brain cell.
But before they can save millions of lives...
Tell me I didn't see that. They recognize that gun.
That's impossible. Sharks do not swim backwards. They can't.
They'll have to find a way to save their own.
Just what the hell did you do to those sharks?
Did you feel something?
Jim and I use gene therapies to increase their brain mass.
What is that?
As a side effect, the sharks got smarter.
Somebody, please, tell me what that is. Go! Go!
And welcome to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your host. Now, on today's episode, we're going to head out to Aquatica and try to fight for our lives against some really, really smart sharks. But, you know, we're going to just get right into it today. For today's episode, we're going to be covering a little film from 1999, and that is called Deep Blue Sea. But I will say, first and foremost, I could not do this alone by myself. No. I had to bring in two big guns for this, okay? And so I'm so happy to have them on my show. They have both respectively been on the show before, one of which helped cover the movie Ravenous, and the other one did The Crow with me. And they are the co-hosts of the Men Who Like Movies podcast, a podcast where two gay men talk about movies, all sorts of shit, and all sorts of movies. But please welcome back to the show, Clayton Jones and Shawn Murphy. Hey guys, how are y'all doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having us back.
Yeah, of course. Happy to have you, of course.
Yes, we're glad to be here. Yay.
Of course.
I love this movie. I love movies where sharks are dicks.
Hell yeah, of course. And so we did have we had a change of this because I did just cover Drop Dead Gorgeous earlier, and I had another guest on, but you guys are very, very nice. I was gonna have you on for that, but I literally was gonna have to have a symposium for like all the people who wanted to do that. That I was like, hey, be on my show, and then they were like, can I do Drop Dead Gorgeous? I'm like, I gotta be picky with that one, but you guys are very nice, and I was like, hey, can you guys do this one instead, since you also brought it to my attention? And you were like, hell yeah, let's talk about these sharks. So
my favorite shark movie, so absolutely.
Oh, 100%. I guess just to kind of start out, if anything, I mean, this movie is celebrating 25 years, so it's kind of a reason to cover it. But I do want to hear from you both respectively. You know, what is it about this movie? Like, where, I guess, what is your history with it? When did you first see it? And what is it that stands out to you? I mean, like, why would it be like a favorite shark movie of yours? And yeah, like, what was your history with it? I guess that's what I want to know. And why would y'all want to come on and talk about it?
Shawn, you go first.
Well, first, ignore my horrified screeching that this is 25 years old. Yeah, I first saw this movie. I didn't see it in theaters. I would have been 8 when it came out. So my dad actually rented this from the library, and I watched it. And because I was obsessed with horror movies, and this was one where he was like, "Well, it's horror, but it's also action. We could do it." And I was like, "All right." So we rented it, and I just remember, like, just loving this movie. Like, like Samuel L. Jackson, I'm sure we'll talk about that more in depth later, but like that literally shocked me so much that I couldn't stop thinking about it for like 2 weeks straight. Still think about it every randomly. It's just, this movie is so much fun. It's fun. Like, I'm here for everything it's doing. Like, everyone is hot, which is always a plus, and it's a ton of fun. Like, this is what I want from a shark movie. Like, no one is ever going to touch Jaws, but like, this is how you do it and like still make it up there. This is my number 2 shark film. So it's Jaws, of course, is my first, because I saw that when I was actually younger than this one. But it's just, I love this movie so much. It's so much fun.
So I don't remember when I first saw this. I didn't see it in theaters either because I was not allowed to go to theaters in 1999. The best year of film. Never forgive my parents for not just taking me to see every single movie that came out that entire year. But while I agree, Jaws is the best shark movie, this is my favorite. This is the one I have the most fun with. The sharks amazingly still pretty much hold up 25 years later to a lot of the shark films that are coming out today. The characters are fun. It's just the right amount of ridiculous, and any movie that has tons of these water set pieces, I'm just like, these poor actors. This seems awful. I love watching it. It's just really exciting, and I like it. And I revisit it a lot. So I was really happy that you had this on your list.
Of course, yeah. Also, shout out to the libraries, the public libraries. I don't know if our administration, not currently, but future, perhaps, don't know if they're going to take away that shit. So hopefully we still have libraries.
Oh, God.
Jesus. But it's always been an influx. So it's not me just saying it, trying to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm just saying, like, people always just be like, why do the library got to exist? I'm like, bitch, shut up. But, shout out to the public library. Shout out to Canopy and Hoopla, because it's literally free, ad-free entertainment. It's amazing. All you need is a library card. I'm like, literally, you can watch things for free with no ads. Like, it's amazing. And they got some
also
bangers. And Libby. Oh, that's how I began in my book era. That's how I listened to Jeanette McCurdy's book. That is how I listened to The Virgin Suicides. That is how I listened to Rose McGowan's book. So anytime I'm reading a book, I don't like actually reading, apparently, but I would like audiobooks. And that's how I've been doing it. So fuck yeah. We in here. Like, it's cute. I like it. I guess my history with this movie, very, very recent. I saw it for the first time last year because, I don't know. I guess I was more of a slasher girl for me in horror, like kind of slasher, psychological thriller or horror type of person. So, I mean, not that I didn't love a good shark movie here and there, but it's not like I watched that shit a bunch, you know what I mean? And so for me, at least, this was first time watch for me last year because it was streaming somewhere. And I thought, well, and I think I was doing like Pride Watch along with Horror Queers or something. And I think it was aquatic horror, I believe, was one of their little categories they had. And I was like, well, I've never seen Deep Blue Sea. So much so that the poster of this film, which is Saffron Burrows, with a shark behind her, I literally thought, I was like, oh, so she's the final girl, right? Like, of course. And then
technically she is the final girl.
Kind of is, but we'll get into that. But yeah, no, I completely kind of echo what you guys are saying. I mean, this film is it's definitely the right amount of stupid for me, which I just appreciate. And I just think it is a fun time where, I don't know how else you would do unless you're going to go into like the schlocky horror shark type stuff. Like, I mean, of course I love a good Santa Jaws, obviously, holiday spirit, but or any of those like Three-Headed Shark Attack or any of those like, bad sci-fi shark movies or whatever, which also
I love them.
Yeah, also have a place. I have watched at least 3 of the Sharknado movies, or half of the third one. They are a time, okay?
Surprisingly, Clayton has seen more of those than I have.
I have seen every single Sharknado film.
can't with you.
I went through, what was it? Just like a 3-day thing where I'm just like, I'm going to watch
That's
the
fair.
Sharknado movies. And it was during the pandemic and I just watched them all and had a great time. I am such a snob about movies, except for shark films. I don't care.
That's fair.
I like them. I
understand.
Under Paris one that everyone's like, oh, this is awful. And I'm like, this was amazing. I had so
No,
much
it's
fun.
great. No, 5 out of 5. No notes. It's fine.
I don't think I gave it a 5, but I'm pretty sure in my letterbox I was like, this is a 5-star film in my heart. It's perfect. And that cop was so hot. I'm like, how did everyone not just love this? I'm not picky about a shark movie.
That's fair.
It's my weakness.
Yeah, that's fair. Have you guys seen the Sharksploitation documentary on Shudder at all?
No, it's on my list. I added it to it, but I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, it's cute. It's like I think it's an hour and a half or something like that. And it just goes over, shark shit, like of course it talks about Jaws and how Jaws had a bunch of imitators after that and everything. But it also talks about just like how sharks in general, and it's so interesting. It's similar to dinosaurs, I guess, that sharks really in their nature aren't exactly like made to be killers and predators, really. But like, and similar, I mean, some dinosaurs were, but like generally a lot of the dinosaurs were not actually obviously carnivorous or anything. They just were like chilling, you know what I mean? They were just like trying to like live. And so like it is interesting that like sharks have this like bad reputation because of like the entertainment out there, right? Because there's no good shark movie, right? Like it's always kind of a killer shark or whatever the hell. And so yeah, but in their nature, I mean, sharks aren't violent in their nature from what I understand. I'm also not a marine biologist, so I don't know, but whatever.
What?
I believe more people die from lightning strikes than from a shark attack each year. So I mean, like,
I want to say I think more people are killed by cows every year.
Cows too.
Especially if you're in Indiana, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah, I'm sure it's just walking down the street. There's a cow or 7.
Literally.
No, it's more of the meth.
Shawn, Jesse, 1 second. You know how, well, Shawn knows this, you probably don't, how I've been stressing about, are there going to be cows in Twisters? Because if I don't see a cow flying through the air in their new Twister movie, I'm going to be pissed. The latest trailer, it starts out at a rodeo. We're going to get cows. I'm so excited.
I'm so mad though, because, okay, listen, not that I watched Twister like that as a kid or anything. I mean, I was familiar with it, but I don't actually think I've seen that movie, to be honest. But I'm just mad that I don't, unless they're going to surprise us with her, but like, I'm mad that Helen Hunt's not in it. Like, what the hell?
I think she's going to be a surprise. I'm pretty sure.
You think so?
Yeah.
It'll be like Lindsay Lohan and Mean Girls, the musical thing.
I think that's what it's going to be. I'm pretty sure Helen Hunt's going to be there. I have a feeling.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
It's just,
yeah.
Also, it'll make me kind of sad because, like, I want Bill Paxton to be there.
I know.
Well, we can't bring him back with a hologram because that's weird, Shawn. So
yeah.
What? Star Wars does it all the time.
Yeah, it's fucking weird.
Yeah, and then they did that with Paul Walker, and they used his brother and all that. It was a whole thing.
And I don't think Twisters has the budget to do a good digital recreation. So let's just
have him look at the exact.
Have like
same.
a picture, like a set photo on the side. Like, oh, remember him?
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God, Helen Hunt is now the aunt.
Oh, yes.
That would be fantastic.
Sorry. Anyway, I didn't mean to distract us from sharks. I just was like,
no, you're totally fine.
Twister.
I mean, listen.
We went from the sky down to the water.
Listen, it's super important. Yeah, I've just been like on not a super Helen Hunt kick, but I like both of you need to watch Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I'm just saying, because you're going to be like, what the fuck? How does Helen Hunt still sound like that even back in 1985? What the fuck? Like, it makes no sense. I don't know. It's a fun gay time somewhat. Shannon Doherty, Sarah Jessica Parker. It's a whole thing.
Good time. Like Shannon Doherty.
Okay, well,
Shawn, you can watch it.
Yeah, Shawn, you can at least watch it. It's fine. No, she's not a big part of it. She's not a big part of it. She like plays a sister or something. She's not a big part of it. It's really Sarah Jessica Parker and Helen Hunt. So I mean, they're fun. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's a good time. I feel like I'm just gonna end up covering Girls Just Want to Have Fun, but it just makes me think of Helen Hunt because why not? You know? But yeah, I mean, that's my history. I didn't watch this until last year and I really fucking liked it. And similar to how I think like Return of the Living Dead is my favorite zombie movie because it's just so goddamn good. I feel like I'm with you, Clayton, that like this is probably my favorite shark movie because it just is. Yeah, it just is.
It's so unserious.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It doesn't take itself seriously, which I'm absolutely fine with. Like you're here for fun. Like it knows it's not going to be Jaws. It doesn't need to be Jaws. Like
try to
it is
be
a
Jaws.
movie about a scientist who is trying to cure Alzheimer's by making sharks smarter. Like that movie is a Z movie if I've never heard of it, and then they put this incredible B movie and put money behind it.
Right.
It's far better than it has any right to be.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. So we're going to move a little bit into just like talking about like the figures of the film and just kind of all this. I did make some notes, I guess. So I think we can talk a little bit about just like, let's give a little bit of context for the people out there though. I think that's a good idea. So because we were all around in the late 90s though, and we're all a bunch of film gays, right? So like, I think if you guys had to kind of describe like what was the film industry looking like in like the late 90s, I guess, and you know, how would you kind of contextualize that? What do you think was, how would you kind of describe like what it was like for the late 90s and film?
Well, 99 is widely
the best year
considered the year
ever
of film. Yeah. But also this was the prime years of like mid-budget features, which I think are like some of my favorite films of all time are mid-budget. Like this is one of them. Like they didn't make it a blockbuster. They gave it a pretty reasonable budget to make effects that do still mostly hold up. I actually think the boat in the water at the beginning is the worst effect of the movie. But
that was definitely a reshoot. Oh, let's be real.
Yeah, I was like, it's like, well, like that opening shot, like you could, that water is not moving the same as the boat
completely.
is. So I'm just like, all right. But you know, it holds up well. Like this, they don't make mid-budget movies anymore. Now it's either micro-budget or you're making a blockbuster.
I've said this plenty of times. Yeah,
and it's
bring back
like,
the mid-budget feature.
Yeah,
seriously.
Like, even rom-coms, like they're like $80 million now, and I'm like, for what? Like,
I know,
get two people with chemistry, throw them together, and like it doesn't need to be like super expensive.
Yeah,
like that was the thing I loved about these movies, like Anaconda, Deep Blue Sea. Like all these movies were just mid-budget, but like you could tell that they put heart and time and effort into them. And I'm a sucker for a creature feature anyway. Like it doesn't matter to the creature, I'm here for it. And it's just, this was like the height of mid-budget creature features.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, like there was just a lot of stuff going on with, like you said, mid-budget films. And I think also just 99 in general. Again, I have not read that book, like 99, the best film year ever or whatever. I haven't read that, but I venture to say that the reason was probably just because people were like, oh my God, maybe the world will actually end. So we need to get this shit out there. But I also think a lot of it kind of came from the fact of like, you now had like, I don't know, you had different things going on. Teenagers, I think, became more of like a demographic that people were trying to get after things like Scream and even I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is why you had this onslaught of teen movies that came out within 98, 99, things like that. And then you have things like the Blair Witch Project coming out and all that. But like you said, yeah, like it's mid-budget. Like you didn't need a giant, crazy big budget. So, you know, that's very fair. It's interesting you say that about creature features and even like disaster films. Like in that situation, like, do you feel like there was this kind of popularity of these different disaster and monster movies during the late 90s? Like, do you feel like that was something that kind of like popped up? Because this is definitely one of those. But yeah, do you feel like that was kind of something that was also happening? And maybe that's why, you know, this movie might have came to be too. Like, I don't know. It's interesting to kind of posture
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at this point, so like disaster movies kind of, their heyday was originally the 70s, and then they kind of died out for a long time. But then like when Independence Day came out, everyone was like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Like, and Independence Day was a massive hit, and it really brought in like, I mean, we had Dante's Peak, Volcano,
Twister, you know, I think is
Twister,
there.
Daylight, Daylight, Deep Blue Sea would be considered a kind of a disaster film. Like disaster
Armageddon, even I would say.
Yeah, Deep Impact. Like there was it was an onslaught of them in the late 90s where they just kind of like they really had a resurgence.
Right.
So yeah, absolutely. Disaster films were really making a comeback at that time.
Partly, I wonder if people really just thought like the world was going to end. So we were like, we got to get this shit out there in a way. Like, I kind of wonder that sometimes now that we're talking about it. We're like, huh.
I'm thankful they did because like we wouldn't have the cinematic masterpiece, The Mummy.
Exactly. That's very true. Yeah. That was like the beginning of the remake, like in a weird way, because that's technically a remake. So yeah, no, totally. But yeah, I think that gives a good context of like, it's just so varied in the late 90s. And I think people wanted to take it really kind of came from, I think, even though you have whatever thoughts you have about him, but like, I think having someone like a Quentin Tarantino kind of doing his own thing and being this auteur, but then also having the onslaught of, kind of these different movies that could become big blockbusters, but also could be that kind of niche. Like obviously you have something like Independence Day, which is a huge blockbuster, but then you also have something like Scream, which kind of just became a sleeper hit. And that kind of made a whole lot of horror movies, come after that were trying to imitate it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think that's interesting to say the least. But yeah, let's move into a little bit of the figures of this film. So Deep Blue Sea, it was released July 30th of 1999. So you're hearing this like in the middle of July, I think. So I'm not putting you with you guys at the end of the month, but but it's celebrating 30 years, this month, which is cool. It's about
125. 25.
25. Stop
years,
doing
please.
that to us.
Don't make it worse than it
is. Sorry about that. Yeah, 25. I should have already done that. I don't know.
The screeching has turned from like sad to horrified. Thank you.
I just speak into this microphone sometimes. I don't give a fuck what I say half the time. No, but you're all good. It's about 105 minutes, I think. They could have shaved a little bit of time off of this, just a little bit. But I mean, it still generally works. It's not the worst, but yeah, they could have shaved a little bit.
I would not change a single thing about it. There's nothing that I would cut from
from this movie. There's one thing I would change, and that
you would change the ending, Shawn. I know.
I would just a little,
but that's not shaving off time. Like
tiny itsy bitsy bit. I'm just saying that would be a change.
Yeah, true. This is a Warner Brothers picture. It was distributed by them, and then also this has about an estimated budget of $60 to $82 million, depending on who you ask or where you find it. So, I mean, that makes sense because you do have like a lot of visual effects, like a lot of special effects, some of which are mostly CGI, but there are some practical things in here, which is cool. And yeah, this would be kind of a big budget movie. So, yeah, but but again, even that, like, this was supposed to kind of be that. This wasn't a mid-budget, like, rom-com or, like, little, studio movie that just kind of came out. So, yeah, it makes enough sense. With our box office information, we're looking at the opening weekend ranking gross was about, it came in number 3 with about $19.1 million its first weekend. And then overall, it made about $73.5 million in the US. And then internationally, it made about $91 million with an overall worldwide gross of $164.6 million. So needless to say, I mean, this movie did well enough where at least it did, make a good amount of profit back. But I think it did get like critically kind of maligned, if anything. So there was that. Do y'all have anything to say about the box office?
I mean, the fact that it was able to even like shoulder its way into the crowded box office of 1999.
Oh, yeah.
And make any money at all is pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah.
So, true. Like, I mean, every single week in 1999, it was like, here's 5 amazing bangers.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then in terms of like the critical response, so we're looking at about a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes with about 115 reviews, and then a 39% audience score with about 250,000 ratings from people. And then it's a 2.8 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So y'all have anything to say about like the critical response or anything?
They're wrong. And I will say, I love to bring up a Roger Ebert review. He gave this 3 out of 4 stars. So
Look at that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
He enjoyed a creature feature once in a while.
Sure, yeah.
I feel like it's the same with the people who didn't like the Phantom Menace. They just don't like fun.
Sure, that's fair. Where you're like, okay.
American Beauty came out and everyone was like, ugh, we have to be pretentious now. Look at Clayton.
I do love American Beauty.
Listen, I've only watched that movie one time, and I thought it was very okay, if anything.
And this is see it on the big screen this year. I'm so excited.
I do love, well, as you know, Clayton, we already have this, and even I think Shawn we've talked about it before. I mean, it was written by Alan Ball, who did do 6 Feet Under, and I mean, I have to give him that. I mean, it's so good. Thora Birch is really good in it, and I love Mina Savari in it as well. You know,
you were only in 17 once, and you looked fat. Stop acting like you're goddamn Christy Turlington.
Exactly. No, seriously. And it very much was like that kind of film, and you know, yeah, I get it. Like, should it have won Best Picture? I don't know, but you know,
yes.
I don't know. Like, whatever.
Clayton will always say yes.
That is an award I have no issues with.
Some other movies that were actually out at the time, or at least they were in theaters, according to Box Office Mojo, at least. Again, what I just covered like 2 weeks ago, which was Drop Dead Gorgeous, of course, was in theaters. Not
which
doing
did
very
not
well.
make a huge dent in the box
failing
office, sadly.
Failing
America,
miserably.
You are the worst.
I know. But then also American Pie was in theaters, breaking in the money. Jesus Lord. We also had the Blair Witch Project, also in theaters, and we also had Runaway Bride in theaters as well, which was actually which was actually shot. I've mentioned this before. It was actually shot in a place called Berlin, Maryland, which is right near Ocean City, Maryland. Don't ever go to that beach. It sucks. But I have family who live in Berlin, Maryland, and that is where it was shot. And they have a cute quaint little town.
Is Hale, Maryland not a real place?
No, it is not. No, it's the same place that they did that, and also Tuck Everlasting. They also shot.
Oh, I forgot that existed.
Well. I know, yeah.
I will say Runaway Bride has my favorite fictional store.
Oh, really? What is it?
The hairdressing place that's called Curl Up and Dye, but DYE. I've always thought it was amazing. I'm like, what a wonderful name for a hair salon.
Also, I mean, Joan Cusack is there, so I mean, that's at least nice.
It's my favorite Joan Cusack role.
Excuse me, In-N-Out is right there.
Sean's gonna say Addams Family Values.
Excuse me. What about Debbie?
I mean, yes. What about Debbie? Y'all see that meme that's been going around where when it says, like, you know, when someone says you're being Debbie Downer, and it's just her saying Deborah.
Yes, I have seen that.
It's so good. Thank God for the little fag who made that. I'm so happy for them. It's so good. But yeah, so that's what was in the theaters, at least at that point. So we got to talk a little bit about this cast and this crew, okay? So this is a Renny Harlin joint. So he is the guy who did both. He did the sequel to Die Hard, which I have never seen any of the Die Hard movies, but he did the sequel apparently. And he also did Die Harder. Which one's that? Is it the second one?
Number 2. That's the second one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, got it. And then he also did Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which is not the worst entry in that franchise at all.
Not
it's
the
actually
best.
It's not bad, but it's not the best, but it's not bad. It's fine. If anything, I feel more perturbed that Lisa Wilcox is on that MILF Manor. Like, I just am confused by that, but you know, I don't know. Did you also know that she was on Boy Meets World for like at least an episode?
I did not. I grew up without TV, so I never watched Boy Meets World. All I know is it's Corey and Topanga.
Yes, and then they're friends. Shawn, and then Eric is the brother, and yeah, it's a whole thing. So, you know, whatever. You got to get up in that, Clayton. I feel like you'd like it. Might.
I do not have time to watch a network television show from 30 years ago.
Well, I mean, whatever. You know, listen.
Clayton schedules himself so much that he feels like he has to stick to it.
I do. I love a schedule. Very type A. Renny Harlin, though, while we're talking about him, I love this movie that Renny Harlin directed. I thought he was an amazing director, and I was so excited that he was doing a Strangers reboot. And it ended up being one of the worst horror movies I've seen this year. I was going to ask if you all still holding out hope for the sequels, but yeah, it was real bad. I was very disappointed.
Is he directing the sequels?
He is. Did all 3 of them. They're already filmed, done. That'll be coming out in a few months.
Oh,
We'll
lordy,
see.
lordy. Oh, Jesus.
I will be
Lord.
there to support Cheryl Blossom.
Who is that? I don't even know who that is.
Madeline Petch. She was in Riverdale.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The hot little redheaded lead of the Strangers reboot.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I kind of, again, I did not know who the fuck that I think I knew she was from Riverdale, but like I didn't know like yeah. And plus also like I did like The Strangers back in the day. I have not seen The Strangers Pray at Night though. But I mean, yeah, I'm probably not pressing play on it. I'm just gonna say that right now. But you know.
Oh,
I
Pray at
mean,
Night's
as
actually
far
good.
as now, I wouldn't recommend it, but I think The Strangers 2008 is one of the best / scariest horror movies of all time. Don't hit me, Shawn. I know you have your issues with it. And Pray at Night is surprisingly good. It's got one of the best horror sequences I've ever seen.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
To Total Eclipse of the Heart at a pool. It's wonderful. Just look up the scene. It's great.
Oh, and
Um,
I don't have a problem with The Strangers. I love that movie. It's just they're both, everyone in it is literally dumb as rocks. So like, which might be insulting to the rocks.
Wow.
That's my only thing with The
I don't want you to
Strangers. It's
die,
just like,
Shawn, but I would love to see you in a horror movie situation just to see. I wouldn't even be worried about dying if I was with you. I would just be snarkily being like, "Oh, is that the smart thing to do, Shawn?"
Well, I wouldn't stick by you because you
Remember in
would literally throw me
2011
to
when you
them.
said when you said that horror movie characters are so stupid, you just did that.
Wow.
And then of course I would push you down and run away because that's what I would do in a horror situation because I
That's
want to
fair.
live.
No,
Not really, but
I was gonna say you
wanna
would push
choose
me
the moment of my
towards him,
death.
and then you would run.
Oh goodness
Sorry, love you.
gracious. No, you're good. My phone just dropped.
And I've been in trauma situations. I know, and not very many, but enough to know that I think I'd be okay. Just putting that out there. And plus, I keep a level head under pressure. I just get calm.
It's fair. It's fair. I'm just gonna like literally off myself if
Bullshit.
we are in a zombie apocalypse. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. But
I
it's
also
just-
would, but I would wait a few days because I'm like I kind of want to see how this is gonna like shake out for like a little bit just out of curiosity.
Yeah.
And then I would off myself.
Yeah, no, completely. I'm just like, I'm not getting eaten by a zombie. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna find some way because I don't think I can do it.
I'm a spiteful bitch. I'm staying alive just because, like, I have so little control over my life that like I'm just like, you do not decide, I will decide.
That's the
I
point.
just like I would have no joy in
Survive
life
out of
anymore.
spite
Like,
already.
How am I gonna watch movies? There wouldn't be new movies coming out. Like
I mean,
there's no Wi-Fi.
do
My
what
Voodoo
the
library
dude-
would be gone. Like I would just be like, fuck it.
Oh wow.
Well,
There wouldn't be hot water probably. Like I couldn't have hot, sexy gay sex
I mean-
anymore. Like it would just all be gross.
I was gonna say, just look at The Last of Us. Nick Offerman didn't do too bad. He had his own town.
Yeah, he also
and
had to do a lot of
and his
work.
own top.
And this is not a podcast about Last of Us. It's all good. Anyway,
But we could do a
Back to
podcast
the-
about The Last of Us. I will happily talk about that like indefinitely. But yeah,
Oh my
anyway,
God.
sharks.
sharks. So this is Duncan Kennedy and then Donna and Wayne Powers who like helped write this movie. So one of them is Jesus. What did DBS 2 and 3? What is that? Oh my gosh. I know one of them, I know the Powerses did Valentine. They actually wrote that movie. Like they were a part of that, which again, iconic. What is DBS though? Now I need to remember what this is. It's not Die by Daylight. It's something else. Oh, Deep Blue Sea 2 and 3. Duh. Oh my God. Wow.
Deep Blue Sea 2, awful. Deep Blue Sea 3,
Awful.
I liked
Surprisingly
I liked
good.
the third one.
I might just keep
Yeah.
some of that in actually because it's funny.
Yeah.
Yes, but Duncan Kennedy, I think the Powers is the married couple or whatever. I think they also like wrote 2 and 3 technically. Although we'll talk about it because I think at least Shawn or maybe you, Clayton, you've at least seen one of the sequels, right?
I've seen both
Yeah,
of the
we've-
sequels. The second
we've
one's
both
awful.
seen
The
them.
third one's good.
We'll talk about
Yep.
it. But yeah, so I love how I was just like Deep Blue Sea. What is DBS? What is that? I should know my own acronyms. It's all good. But that's who wrote it. But they really didn't have much else that they wrote, honestly, from what I can kind of gather. So, you know, that's what they kind of were known for. We then have our composer who is Trevor Rabin. He is also the same guy who did Armageddon, talking about disaster movies earlier, and also National Treasure, which I've never seen, but I know it has Nick Cage in it. And it's a Disney movie, right? I think.
It is. It is a Disney movie with Nick Cage.
Hell yeah. And then we have our cinematographer, Stephen Winden. He did the iconic House of Wax from 2005 that I literally watched when I was 13. It was literally.
I saw that in theaters.
Hell yes, I did. Hell yes,
I watched that on a very sketchy website, a cam rip from the theater, because I was also not allowed to go to theaters, and I love that so much. And
I never said
episode on it is one of our top 10 episodes.
I never said I couldn't go to the theater. I just said I went to the theater. But that's just what happened. My poor mother, literally, like, she just like went to theaters with us, and we're just like she's literally sitting with me watching The Hills Have Eyes from 2006. And I'm just like, girl, thank you.
Son, this is what rape looks like. Here you go. Have a life lesson.
Literally, tea. Oh my god. And then like what was the other one? The Amityville Horror was another one I watched.
Ryan Reynolds is so hot in that movie. That is the hottest he has ever been.
He is very hot. And then Chloe Grace Moretz, like was, I think she was their daughter, right?
Yeah, I want to say that was her
it was her debut, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. And then they had the other little girl in there, and she was like a ghost. And she was like, look what Ronnie did. And then it's like a gunshot blast. And it just scared the fuck out of me when I was a kid. And I was like, oh my God. Again, I was like 13. So like,
also with Melissa George and Rachel Nichols.
Well,
I love Amityville Horror remake.
Oh, fuck. I totally forgot that Melissa George is in that Amityville remake, isn't she?
Mm-hmm.
I just love that you know who Melissa George is, because I love her, and I feel like people don't know who she is.
Oh no, I love her. She was in Mulholland Drive, and she was. We talked about it. I was on the Cult Worthy Studios podcast. Shout out Antonio, and we talked about Switchblade Sisters and Sugar and Spice, and she's in Sugar and Spice. So yeah,
oh my God, she was in Sugar and Spice.
Yeah, she was obsessed with Conan O'Brien, and she's also in Triangle, which is a fantastic movie.
Triangle is fantastic.
It's so good.
Triangle, so good.
It's so good. And she's just trying to like disguise her Australian accent through the whole movie.
Nar.
So good. I also love how you guys did Muriel's Wedding. That was such a serve. That was so fun.
Fucking love Muriel's Wedding.
I love it so much. Also, the same cinematographer did Fast and the Furious. He did a couple of those movies as well. So he had showed
Fuck
it.
Yeah.
Never seen them. Are they good, Clayton?
Okay, I love the Fast and Furious franchise. I don't give a shit about cars, but it and Saw are like my two little ridiculous soap opera long-running franchises that just get so ridiculous and so many retcons, and I'm just like, what story are they going to tell us next time that's like, but this was going on 10 years ago and you didn't know it. I love it. They're big, soapy, stupid things. I highly recommend watching the Fast and Furious franchise.
The Fast and franchise.
Yes.
Fast and franchise.
The Fast franchise. Also Saw. Go watch all of them.
I think it, as you're hearing this now in July, I think Saw might be on, all of them might be on Max right now. So am I gonna be doing this month? Maybe. I don't know. I've only ever seen like the first two.
Marathon's great. So
I only ever saw the first two, and I saw those many years ago. So I have no idea what those movies are. So maybe I just need to like revisit them now.
Yeah,
I did the whole Chucky series. I mean, I did that over a few months. So shit, why can't I do Saw? Hell
My
yeah.
hot take on the Chucky series is that it is the strongest horror franchise.
I do
Halloween,
not think that is
Michael. Like they've all got a bunch of really, really weak entries, and I don't think the Chucky franchise does.
I don't think that's like the craziest of hot takes, because I also tend to agree. That show that I haven't been watching, apparently people are like, girl, what is going on in this third season? I will say with the movies, they're pretty strong, and that's because Don Mancini's been behind them all. So shit.
Yeah, and the TV show, which has still not gotten a renewal yet.
Yeah, they're still waiting on it.
And I'm really fucking mad. But anyway,
did you like the ending of it, or the ending of the third season at least? It's divisive.
Yeah, I think so. I've had a lot going on between then and now. I can look on my serialized app and see what I rated the finale.
There, whatever. Don't worry about it.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna look.
We then have 4 different editors on this movie. So we have Derek Brenchen, Dallas Pruitt, Kevin Stitt, and then Frank J. Uriste, I believe. And they had done 13 Ghosts and also Die Hard. So they were also editing that. And that doesn't surprise me that like 4 different dudes edited this, because it feels like it a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that.
I gave the Chucky season 3 finale 4.5 stars and said I really hope we get a season 4. So apparently I liked it.
Okay, good. Nice. Love that. Yeah,
There you
I
go.
do want to watch it. I only watched a couple of the first episodes of the first season, so I need to actually get in and watch it. But yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen. Yeah. Anybody else from the cast or anybody else from the crew that y'all can think of to like shout out? Let me look real quick on the Letterboxd and just see real quick. I mean, this is a Warner Brothers picture, so you got some Warner Brothers people in here, as well. Who did the let me see who did the visual effects, like who was a part of that. Let's see real quick. Oh, like some guy named Ken Stranahan. He did like Death Proof, apparently. He was part of that, which is cool. Love that. Was that a
my
good or a
favorite
bad?
Tarantino. That was good. Death Proof is my favorite Tarantino film, which is a hot take, but
I don't disagree with you on that. I do kind of like Planet Terror, but I do kind of prefer Death Proof though.
well, Planet Terror isn't a Tarantino film, so that's whatever. But
That's true.
I don't think Death Proof is his best movie. That is Jackie Brown or Inglourious Basterds, depending on my mood.
That's
but
fair.
it is my favorite one to just like throw on and watch.
Yeah, so some of these other people who were in visual effects, you got like Scott Doherty, who had done practical magic. He was also part of that, which is cool. Rebecca Marie, she also helped do Titanic and like Romeo plus Juliet. So a couple of these different people, they'd actually been doing some things. So I mean, shit, good for them. Like, damn, great. Love it. Yeah, I think that's kind of the big people to talk about. I mean, makeup, like, the Jeff Dawn, the makeup guy, he had done a lot of the Schwarzenegger movies. So he did like Terminator and like Total Recall and like that Batman and Robin movie and all that kind of stuff. So, it makes enough sense.
His range is varied.
That is a varied range, truly.
And like Mark Bridges is the costume designer, so he's probably gay, maybe. Perhaps. And anyway, he also did like Joker. He did Marriage Story, The Fablemans, all that stuff. So again,
Definitely gay.
probably definitely gay. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Anyway, so that's a little bit of our crew at least. Now, in terms of our cast, so we got now, who would you guys say is the main character of this movie? If you had to guess, or if you had to say the Sharks. What human main character do you think you guys would say?
Well, I'd say Thomas Jane's Carter. Carter is the kind of the main character. He becomes the silent hero. So
yeah, I would agree.
I don't know if we have
Sexy.
a main character in this. It's really like an ensemble
It
thing.
is an
But I would
ensemble.
say either Saffron Burrows or Thomas Jane if I had to like just pick. This is the main character.
Yeah, no, that's very fair.
I think Saffron Burrows is very much like the focus of the first part of the movie.
Right.
But once we get the reveal that like she messed with she tampered with the sharks, I think it really switches to like Thomas Jane's Carter
Thomas Jane and the
taking
rest
over.
of the people.
Yeah, like he really like starts taking charge, and especially when Samuel L. Jackson bites it.
Right.
Jesse.
Yes.
I have a very important question. What is your relationship with Thomas Jane?
That's a great question because the only things I have down here is he was in Magnolia and The Mist, and I've never seen any of those. And I could not tell you who the fuck this guy is. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, Jesse. I will recommend a small HBO show to you to watch. I think it was 2 seasons, Shawn?
Yep.
Called Hung, where he played a male escort with a very large
is that
penis.
him?
Yes, that is Thomas
I
Jane.
watched a little bit of that. Who's the lady in that? Who's
Jane
the girl
Addams.
in that? Oh, okay, yeah. Because I
Love
was
her.
just watching. I was just watching her in Eternal Sunshine. I just watched that, and good for her. And she was in Happiness and all that stuff. What was the recent movie she was in?
I don't know. She
She's
pops up
sick
everywhere.
last year.
Wait, what was it?
Yeah, she was in Sick last year.
Oh yeah, you're right. Who was she? The romantic comedy person who was like she was a friend of somebody, of some lady. Oh God, no.
She's been in a lot of stuff, but she was in You've Got Mail. She was a newscaster that was flirting with Meg Ryan's boyfriend in that. She's been in a bunch of stuff. Oh, and she was the doctor in Father of the Bride Part 2 that delivered the baby. Like she pops up everywhere, and I love every time I see her.
She's not in 13 Going on 30, right?
I don't remember. That's not what I feel like. I watched that once or twice when I was like a kid and just never
That's
went
fair.
back to it. I should now that I'm in my 30s. I think I would probably really appreciate it, honestly. But
You probably would. It's a really good movie. Anyway, but yeah, I have. Okay, so maybe I need to rewatch like Hung because I was watching that a little bit. Who were the kids in
Definitely.
that?
I don't fucking remember. I wasn't watching it
Yeah,
for the kids.
One of them was
I do
like-
remember the one. It was oh my God, what the fuck is his name? I don't
Noah
remember.
McPhee.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
the daughter.
yeah.
Yeah. No, because I was watching that movie a
Shawn
little.
Wa- Shawn.
Yeah, I was watching that show a little bit. I don't know why I was watching it, but I was. And okay,
Because
yeah,
it's about a male
Jane.
escort with a big dick. Like,
Well, yes. Thomas Jane Adams. Oh, because Jane Adams is like, yo, I liked your dick, and I think we should keep fucking. Anne Heche, rest in peace, Anne Heche. Like, rest in peace. You seem cool. This is actually Smith McPhee's. She was the daughter, I think, of the guy. That is Cody Smith McPhee's little sister. It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Good for them. And then who's this guy? I don't know who this guy is.
Thomas Jane also was the Punisher. Like, he has had a lot of. I think this is the hottest Thomas Jane, maybe, although he is very hot and hung.
Oh, yeah,
but,
that's true. Do you see his dick in that show? I know that's probably a dumb question.
Yes, you do, but I feel like it was probably a prosthetic or something. I don't know.
Yeah, probably was.
I choose to believe that it was real, but
because the whole point is that he is supposed to be hung, so it makes enough sense. Yeah. I was actually watching that show. It's funny you say that, Clayton. I was actually kind of watching that show, and then I fell off of it.
Well, you should finish it.
I'm probably gonna start it over again because I don't fucking remember what even happened.
30-minute episodes. There's not even that many episodes. It's very easy little quick
I feel
thing.
like I was watching that and a little bit of the United States of Terra around the same time. Because I was like, oh, it's supposed to be comedy, right? It's like a comedy drama, right? Like a little bit.
Oh, 100%.
Kind of, sort of.
Tony Collette.
I know, right? Well, that and also Hung is like that
Terra
too.
went off the rails. It started very strong though.
Yeah. And then we have Saffron Burrows. I had no idea who the fuck this lady was. Apparently, she was in Troy and Frida. Y'all know her from anything else except for just this movie too?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Troy, Shawn's always talking to it. It was like, oh, Saffron Burrows. And I'm like, I don't know why you expect me to think Saffron Burrows is like this giant silent film star or something that shows up. Like,
no. Saffron Burrows is incredible in this movie. And then also, I love her in The Bank Job. She's really good in that with Jason Statham. And then, Troy is the other one he would think of. I would think he would know. And then Wing Commander is dumb as shit, but I remember watching that as a kid.
Yeah. Love it.
I do like her name though. It's very fun.
It is very fun. Saffron Burrows. It just like falls off the tongue in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
I then put Samuel L. Jackson. And I just put because I mean he is Samuel L. Jackson. Like how I can't describe him. Like he just is. Like
I will say Samuel L. Jackson has one of the best deaths in this movie. It's so shocking.
It really does.
Oh, it is not the best deaths in just this movie.
I said like one of the best deaths. I meant like the way
I know.
I said
I'm
it,
saying
meant,
it's no. I'm saying it's not just one of the best deaths in this movie. I'm saying
I know that's what I was saying. It came out like I meant just in the movie. I just meant like in like horror movies. It's so good and sudden.
It is really good.
Amazing.
It is really good.
Like mid rousing speech. Good for go get them, sharks, you dicks.
We then also have LL Cool J in this movie, and I also just said the ladies sure do love him because that's what LL means. So, but he had his little horror time. He was in Halloween H2O and he lives. He's in this movie and he lives.
I know. I love this journey for LL Cool J being like, I'm going to be a black guy in horror movies and I'm not going to fucking die.
But he's also, he's like the Kelly Jo Minter because she never died in any of her horror movies, which I love. Y'all know who Kelly Jo Minter is? Y'all better know.
I'm horrible with names, so probably not.
Oh my god. The chick from the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street who was her like black friend.
Okay, I can vaguely remember it. So Nightmare on Elm Street, I have watched the first and second one and the remake multiple times, and also New Nightmare. But all of the other sequels I watched once and was just like, okay, I don't understand the hype, and never watched them again.
Yeah, the Dream Child is the one with the kid who was from the beginning of Jurassic Park, and we don't like him. We don't care. Do you ever see People Under the Stairs ever?
I did.
She's the older sister to Fool.
Again, I've only seen it once. I'm like, but sure, it's good for her.
Okay, Jesus, you're killing me here. And then Popcorn. Y'all ever seen Popcorn?
I've never actually seen Popcorn.
I've never
it's on my
heard of
list.
Popcorn, but I probably wouldn't like it. I'm not a popcorn fan, even as a food.
Shut up, Jesus. First off, Popcorn is lovely and I love it. Second off, the Popcorn movie is actually pretty good too. It's like decent. It's a weird little 90s early horror movie. It has Jill Schoenlin in it, and it also has D. Wallace, when she was D. Wallace Stone back in the day. It was a good time. I'm not gonna lie, I liked it. But she's in there too. Go look up Kelly Jo Minter and please culture yourselves, swine. Jesus Christ.
Kelly with an Y or an I?
I think it's Kelly with a Y.
It's Kelly with a Y.
I think.
And a Joe without it, just a J-O.
Yes. Then we have Michael Rappaport, who's in this movie. I didn't really know who he was. He was in Poetic Justice and also True Romance. I don't know what those movies are, so I don't know. But he's in here.
Wait, what? You're blaming me for not knowing who Kelly Jo Minter is, and you don't know what True Romance is?
No, I do not. What the hell is that movie? Please enlighten me.
Shawn, please, before I get angry.
It's written by Tarantino. It's a Tarantino script about two people that fall in love and end up like stealing a bunch of money from a unrecognizable drug lord, Gary Oldman. Yeah,
Patricia
it's
Arquette.
really,
What's his face?
it's directed by Tony Scott.
Yeah,
Ridley Scott's younger brother.
it is
cute.
a ride. Highly recommend, and it actually would probably fit in on this podcast. Would you say it's a cult classic, Shawn? I don't.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really become a cult classic.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's not like you said there was a bank robbery in it.
No, they steal a bunch of drugs from a kingpin, and he like tracks down these two lovers and like basically tries to kill them. It's as weird as you think it is. It's Quentin Tarantino wrote the script. So I mean it's a Tarantino
Christian Slater
script
plays a guy named Clarence. Patricia Arquette plays a girl named Alabama. It's
and he's Clarence is obsessed with Elvis, and like it's violent and fun. It has a lot of people in it. I believe
The more you know.
James Gandolfini, Brad Pitt is in it for like 24 seconds, but he's funny.
Speaking
Gary
of
Oldman
James
is basically
Gandolfini, though, another actor in this film is Ada Turturro, who played his sister.
Yes, she was. You're very correct about that. I'm glad you brought her up. Actually,
is it James Gandolfini? I can't remember.
It might be. I don't know. It is not True Romance podcast. Maybe I'll put it on the list. Maybe I can have you guys come back. We have Jacqueline McKenzie, who was apparently in Malignant. I don't know who she played, but she was in there apparently. She's a little bit of the forgettable person in this movie, honestly, kind of, sort of. But you know, whatever. She was cool.
I like when she gets bitchy after she learns what they did, and she's just like, "Yeah, you
that's
can leave my example."
Yeah, no, it's fair though. She did dive in. Yeah, she did. They did kill her hubby, which is not cute. I didn't like that. And then also we have a Skarsgård in here as well,
a very young Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes.
I'm sorry. When they, and by they I mean the sharks, grab his fucking little stretcher and throw him at the glass, I get so mad every single time because I'm like, why are they just standing here? They are about to have so much water just blasting them in the face with sharks. Like, start moving. You don't need to watch in shock. Worry about it later. And finally, Samuel L. Jackson's like, all right, we need to move. And I'm like, okay, you could have said that like 5 minutes ago.
I know, right?
I just like that whole scene takes like 17 seconds, and you're making it sound like it's like
it felt
3
like
minutes
forever.
of them staring at it.
It did feel a little long though. I'm not gonna lie, because I was kind of like, y'all need to be moving.
If
like,
I saw those cracks moving and I'm like underwater, I'm like, all right, I need to.
I'm not gonna lie. The minute I saw it coming, I'd be like, nope. Like, bye.
I just love these sharks. I think why I like this so much. These sharks are so cunty. Like the fact that they just.
Yeah, I know.
I spend the whole movie just imagining they're just snickering like Beavis and Butthead every time they kill someone. They're like, idiots. Like, another one.
Like they tried to kill a cook in his oven. Like they're sadistic fucks.
Alanis, this is what irony is.
Oh my god.
Jesus Lord. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Is there anybody else from the cast? I mean, that's pretty much it in terms of the cast. Like you said, what was her name? Ada Turturro, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
For her 5 minutes of screen time.
For her 5 minutes of screen time. Yeah, maybe. And then she dies, unfortunately. It sucks. And then also uncredited, we have Frank Welker, who did the voice of the parrot of LL Cool J, which is cute. Love that.
Oh, the parrot didn't really talk. That makes me sad.
Yeah, no, I think it was just Frank Welker was just doing the voice a little bit. He had like 3 lines or something, some shit.
Fat butt, you've got a big fat butt. I love that parrot.
I mean, fair enough. It's fair. So In terms of like, I guess if you guys had to, because again, we're however far into the podcast, I guess if you had to like explain to maybe somebody who's never seen this film before, we already kind of mentioned a little bit of it, but how would you describe this to maybe somebody who's never seen it?
Oh,
Okay,
I think I described it perfectly earlier when I said scientists trying to solve Alzheimer's make sharks smarter. Sharks are smarter. And then they eat everyone.
Yes. What about you, Clayton?
I would say so. There's this like marine biology lab in the middle of the ocean. They're trying to cure Alzheimer's because sharks don't get shit and everything. They've gotten smarter. There's a storm. The sharks bust in, start killing them. They're super smart. It's amazing. There's a lot of cool water sequences, fun deaths. Go watch it. That is my breakdown of Deep Blue Sea, which I actually did to someone last night. So I was like, I'm going on a podcast, talk about Deep Blue Sea. And they were like, what's that? And I gave them that description.
Yes, very much that. Yeah, so I mean that's what I would say with that. I mean, so in regards to like how this movie came about, so a little bit about how this film came. So the story of Deep Blue Sea was thought of by Duncan Kennedy, who's an Australian screenwriter, after he witnessed the result of a horrific shark attack on a beach near his home. I don't know what that exactly means, but I'm assuming he just saw like a gnarled ass body on the beach, perhaps, or something like that. And this contributed to a recurring nightmare of his, where he said, quote, being in a passageway with sharks that could read his mind. And so this motivated him to actually write a spec script while acknowledging the challenge of trying to approach a shark film when trying not to repeat, though, Jaws from 1975. Warner Brothers bought this script, though, in 1994. Actual development on the project did not start until 2 years later in 1996. And when Renny Harlin was chosen to direct this film, the screenplay, which had already been rewritten by the Powerses, I guess, it was, or it had been done by other writers at Warner Brothers. It was then presented to Donna and Wayne Powers, who I guess turned it into the final script of the film. So this wasn't just rewritten by the Powers couple. It also was rewritten by some other people after it had come from Duncan Kennedy. According to Wayne Powers, he says the quote, the movie became essentially what we wrote. The draft we were first presented by Warner Brothers was much more of an military espionage, high-tech action movie, grenade launchers, that kind of a thing. And we wanted our team to include more blue-collar types and not have weapons to fight back and play it more as a horror movie. And I appreciate that change because I think this would have been kind of a boring action film, in my opinion. But yeah. So it's interesting to kind of hear that.
Yeah, this is the closest to like action shark I would want to get. Like there's so much horror elements, like, and I know sharks aren't inherently like this, but like just to, like turn off my brain and just watch a shark. Like I don't want to watch a shark with a grenade launcher unless you're blowing it up at the end.
Exactly.
Like I don't need like World War sharks. I'm okay with this.
Would watch, but
would press play, but right, exactly.
I love the angle they took with this. I think it's perfectly calibrated as like a shark movie, action movie, horror movie blend, and I love all the set pieces in it, like when they're climbing the ladder and the fire's up above and the water's rising.
Yes.
Genuinely, one of my favorite horror sequences.
It's fantastic. But can I talk about it just for a second?
Sure, go ahead.
Can I tell you why it grinds my gears?
Because they all climb so fucking slow and keep stopping and looking down. Yes.
No, because when that fucking ladder falls and Jan falls off, the ladder is still on the side. Like it only fell where they it is still there. She could have swam to the ladder and climbed up, but
that would have just made too much sense for a blonde.
But honestly, though, without it, we wouldn't have such an epic death. So like, I'm fine with it. But it's one of those. I'm like, girl, like you can see the ladder in shots. It's still there, and I'm like, just climb up the ladder.
Yeah, it's exactly.
But I'm like, then I'm just like, well, she gets a good death. Give it to her.
She does get a good death.
Totally.
And then I love them just like coming out of the water with her, just like, another one you can save, Carter.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so a little bit. So in an interview conducted in August 2021 with Bloody Disgusting, Duncan actually talks about how initially when he researched the project, scientists agreed to talk because I presented Deep Blue Sea sharks as man-made, unlike Jaws, which demonized natural sharks. He revealed that his intentional title for the film was actually Deep Red, which he then turned into Deep Blue Sea. Partly maybe also because there's also a horror movie that's already called Deep Red, but it's not American. So, whatever, but confusion.
Oh, it's a great Giallo film.
It's so good. On development, he discussed in detail what changed and what stayed the same from original screenplay to the final film, describing his own studio rewrites and those of many subsequent writers, emphasizing a Deep Blue Sea team effort and that all of these writers made contributions that are identifiable in the final film. In terms of the final product, he stated that despite major changes, quote, development overall stuck with the very basics framework seen in my original drafts, and that the final film is very different on multiple levels, but also in a more generalized sense, not that different. He does confirm that the development timeline of the project was in fact under 3 years, nothing in Hollywood development time, with the original screenplay selling in July of 95, production starting early August of 98 for a July release of 1999. He revealed that as production approached, he helped to brainstorm ideas for sequences that weren't working, and the producer and acclaimed writer Akiva Goldsman, who I've heard that name. What else has she done? If I'm not mistaken, what else has she done? Give me some things if you know.
I recognize the name, but I am blanking.
Akiva
Goldsman, yeah.
Oh my God. There's a list. Hang on, let me look it up because I can. Good God. So Akiva Goldsman is screenwriter on The Client, Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, I, Robot, I Am Legend, Cinderella Man,
Okay.
A Beautiful Man, or A Beautiful Mind, Da Vinci Code.
She a busy girl.
It's a he, but yes.
He's a busy man.
Busy whatever. It's all good. So yeah, he did the final rewrites of the film. And then on the final film, he stated he felt the decision to steer just a little closer to Alien in multiple ways somewhat limited the film from breaking out even bigger at the box office. Smart sharks in our world make the movie fresh, but being a little too alien-esque overall may have held it back. However, Kennedy concluded that the final film was very much the film he envisioned in terms of the visuals, the world, the story, journey, and the audience experience. So it seems that Mr. Kennedy, after having those weird nightmares he was having, if anything, was happy with the final product of his script and all that, which is so super cool because that doesn't always happen.
No, it does not.
If anybody listens to this show or any film show, you find that out. So
also, one thing I hate is like any movie that isn't within tight space, like enclosed spaces, and has any kind of like monster is like automatically like assumed to be like ripping off Alien.
Right.
I don't really
until
see
you told me that, Jesse,
this.
I would have never thought of any sort of Alien.
I never think
Mm-hmm.
like it just feels like that's such a catch-all answer for so many movies. Like they're just like, oh, they're trying to rip off Alien. Like just because it's an enclosed space doesn't mean it's trying to rip off Alien. Like
Yeah.
I don't foresee any, like this feels like a disaster movie first. Like they're trying to get out before rather than like the an alien or other form is like chasing them. Yeah, like the sharks are there, but they are trying to get the fuck out of there. So for me, like it leans towards the disaster action first, and with the horror. So I don't know. I just hate that catch-all answer of them like them just being like, well, it's like
this is just Poseidon with sharks.
Sure, yes, it could be very well. A lot of this happened. A lot of this filming actually happened at Fox Baja Studios in Mexico. This is also
where they filmed Titanic.
Yes, that is where they filmed Titanic. So a lot of the large water tanks that they used for this film were also used in that film, which is kind of cool. Yeah. And then there were like little Easter eggs. So, for example, like the license plate that is pulled from the shark's teeth in the beginning is the same one that is found on the tiger shark carcass from Jaws. So it's kind of a little tie-in, of course, because why can't you do that? Of course you would. Yeah. And, I'm sure there were like a few different things. So like, what was one thing? Like Thomas Jane says, the first day I was in a cage, but the next day they swam me 30 feet down. This guy yanks the breather off of me, and the water's churning with blood and guts and stuff. And it was so terrifying that I don't want to remember it. So that's fun.
Yeah, I don't sign me up for any of these filming projects. They seem like absolute hell, but I'm really glad actors can put themselves through that for my viewing pleasure.
Absolutely, for sure. Stellan Skarsgård says actually, funny enough that the scene where the cast is trying to get back on the elevator after hooking up Stellan Skarsgård to the helicopter is actually an accident that made it into the film. So Samuel L. Jackson, he said at one point 3 tons of water got thrown on us by accident and we got swept towards those cargo bays, and everyone thought that we were going into the drink and people were tumbling around this metal grating. We scrambled up and kept acting, and that was not supposed to happen. We didn't have safety harnesses on and we were flailing around on the deck. So fun times.
It looks miserable, absolutely miserable. I feel like I would forget I'm supposed to be acting and just panic.
Yeah, and LL Cool J actually was supposed to die early on, but they ended up keeping him around. And you know, it's nice because he ends up living at the end. So that's beautiful and lovely.
And saves the day.
He does.
Yeah.
The film's end was also changed, though, shortly before its theatrical release. Originally, who is Saffron Burrows in this movie? What's her character's name?
Dr. Susan McAllister.
Okay, Dr. Susan. So she would escape the shark-infested waters and live. And the test audience, who saw the film less than a month before, though, were angered by this ending because she was responsible for the experiments in general and was seen as the film's villain aside from the sharks themselves. So as a result, they did a one-day reshoot in the Universal Studios tank and did some computer-generated work on the sharks to change it. And a fan petition was created in 2019 calling on Warner Brothers to release the original ending that received both support from Thomas Jane and also Renny Harlin as well.
I will never forgive test audiences for this one. Like, did
Test
her death
audiences
gag
have
me?
never fucking helped a movie.
Yeah,
Right.
Like,
Don't worry. When I come on your show, little tease for people. I'm coming on their show in a couple months, and test audiences for the movie that we're going to be talking about. It was not kind to that movie, and that fucked that movie up.
What are we doing? I literally don't even remember.
It's the secret, Clayton.
Oh my god.
We have the schedule.
It
You
is.
look later.
It is.
So
it is
curious
it is a movie that was done by somebody who may or may not have directed a very well known episode of Game of Thrones. That's what I'll give you. So
He's going to be racking his brain for a while, but
No,
I
I'm
wanna
just
go back to
scrolling.
the
I'm
death of
scrolling
Susan.
through the schedule. I'm like, all right.
That's literally how I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Justice
Sorry.
for Susan, because like she's right. Like that's the thing that drives me crazy. Like anyone who's like, oh, she's the villain, like no, she's right. Like she is absolutely right. This whole film, like she is trying to solve Alzheimer's. She's trying to save like millions of people who will literally lose everything they love. Like oh my god, anytime anyone's like, oh, she's like, she's the villain, I'm like, no, she's not.
Right.
Like she's trying to like her ends justify the means, and honestly she's not just like straight up murdering people
and justifies the means person. So I think she is totally justified and didn't need to die, and I think it's very it gives us another kill, and it is like kind of weirdly poetic in a way, but the whole American concept, I mean, that's like so Hays Code, like a bad person has to be punished or you can't release this movie. And I like even the end of this, that would be my one complaint. Like not the end that she dies, but I'm like, she could have accomplished this by cutting her hand and dripping blood in the water. She did not need to go in there. Like that is pointless. This is stupid. It makes no sense. And Thomas Jane's got the weapon and it's like, why did he dive in? She gave him a chance. This is the whole point. She did this so he could kill the shark, and then he just jumps in. I'm like, this is dumb.
He's trying to save her. I get it. He's trying to swim, like save her, but like, and
big picture.
Sharks are attracted to both blood and turning water, so her splashing is another.
So
thing
throw
that's
some shit in the water while you're bleeding.
Well, but
you don't need to jump in.
It's going to sense the bleeding while she's like while she's moving.
Yeah.
So I mean, I get it. She's trying to attract the shark. It does make some amount of sense, but like, it's just every time I watch this, like, I love this movie beyond reason. It is one of my favorite like fun time movies. But like, it angers me that like that character had to die. I was like, she literally is right. Like, she is in the right. Like, yes, were her methods flawed? Absolutely. But like, she's trying to solve something much bigger than, than just these people in this station. Like, her solving Alzheimer's is worth every death of this movie.
Also,
like,
she just should have thought through, let's take this perfect killing machine and make it really smart. And obviously, things aren't going to like being tested on. They're going to get pissy. It backfires, Story of Frankenstein. We get it. Playing God is dangerous. But yeah, the fact that test audiences were like, I'm going to write on my little card that she's a bad person and should have died. Get fucked. And I did look up our schedule, Jesse, and I have never seen that film that we are covering with you.
I'm so excited to see what you think.
So that is why I was like, I will never guess this because I haven't seen it.
I'm excited for you to see it because I want to see what you think of it.
I've always thought the cover looked really interesting.
It is really interesting. Yeah. Shawn, have you seen that movie?
If we scheduled it, I probably did.
I was like, it's something you picked on the schedule, says I didn't.
Okay,
because I've never seen it. So yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if anything, I mean, we're not going to like dive too deep into like all of the characters. I guess definitely like Dr. Susan is definitely a standout character. But what do you think of some of the other characters of this film too? Do you have anything to say about any of them? You want to try and look in and analyze a little bit of what they were doing? Because I think you guys hit it pretty well of like what her motivations and all that were and her development through the whole movie, really. Because yeah, she does start out as somebody who is trying to do better for the greater good, but is that good? Is that ethical? I don't know. It's like a whole thing. So yeah, I think you guys definitely hit that. But is there any other character that you kind of just is there any other character where you're like,
my opinion on the rest of the characters in this film is these are just stock movie characters. Thomas Jane is like a guy with a kind of complicated past. LL Cool J, he just likes to cook and he likes his bird. Like, we just don't know that much about them.
And he's kind of funny.
Samuel L. Jackson's the money. Like, it just there's not too much to read into them, I don't think. But they give us enough information to like, okay, this is who this guy is. We get this enough to be invested.
I don't know if I'd agree with that because I do think not every character, like, I think they're all given, like, it helps that they're played by like very talented people, but like, especially like the preacher, like LL Cool J's character is very much given more, he has more depth to him than I think shows off than just the surface. Pun intended. But I mean, he talks about like his thing on relativity, like that's brilliant. Like, it's just, he's a man who is clearly content with his life, but he's in a, he's in a spot where he's good. Like, he's working with these people. He doesn't like rely on like different stereotypes, especially with like when Franklin's all like, the food was amazing, brother, and he's like, I'm not your brother, dude. Like
we're not doing
like, yeah, like I'm not here for it. Like, he's there. He is, I don't know. I just feel like he at least portrays that character with much more depth than like any write than I think the character should have.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons I like him. I'm like, by the end of this movie, like, I literally want him to live. Like, most movies like this, I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to like.
I agree. I definitely
like,
think when I first watched this.
Yeah, no, and that's just exactly it. Like, every time I watch this, I'm like, okay, well, like, some of them I really want to live, and some of them I'm just like, well, they got hate.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, what I was gonna say is that I think like this movie made me really care about Preach, honestly, and the preacher, and like it. I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, oh my God, is this guy going to die? Like, no, I don't want him to die. Like, because I guess if anything, I mean, maybe, is my show. So, but whatever. But like, I kind of was like, yeah, no, I guess the lady's going to die. Like, oh, okay. I thought she wasn't, but I guess she is. And that's exactly what happened. So it was a little bit of a surprise for me, but like, yeah, no, I get what you're saying, Shawn, because like, yeah, I also felt a similar way where I was like, Yeah, well, I felt a way where I was just like, I don't want Preacher to die. Like, I like him. Like, he's been fun. Like, I think he's a good character, if anything, even if he is just a stock character in a way, you know. I kind of get that though too.
Yeah, they're fun. They're likable. I like watching them. I just am like, there's not a lot going on.
Not a lot of like
episode.
development. Yeah.
I will say, do you think his prayer with them while they're all holding hands at the end, that starts off very traditional, quoting scripture, and then goes off on its own little thing? Do you enjoy that better, or Samuel L. Jackson's completely not actual scripture from Pulp Fiction?
It's been a minute since I've watched Pulp Fiction, so it's probably since I was a teenager I saw that. But I would say, if anything, probably this, to be honest. Recency bias might also be a thing of that too, but also like I think that this has more to do because I believe it more. Not that I wouldn't believe Samuel L. Jackson's like not scripture at all, but trying to be, but I think this one is very much because if anything, it shows that he wants everyone to be good and be well, and he's praying for everybody, not just himself. So I kind of like that, and it's nice. So
I just think it's very, very funny when it's just going off. It's just like, oh, This started out traditionally. Sam Jackson's obviously is more iconic, but I think this one is a more fun variation on scripture.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fair. I'm a big old. Well, obviously, you're probably not religious any longer. For good reason.
Fuck no, they killed Diana.
Right, exactly. But yeah, no, I do like. Preach honestly is one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character in this movie. So, I mean, it's a good time. It's definitely a good time. Are there any like particular standout scenes or anything you guys like have that you kind of wanted to highlight and talk about a little bit that you could think of? I'll have to think of like one or two at least, but feel free. What do you guys have?
Sure. I think the ladder sequence is still the best. Go ahead.
The ladder sequence, and I mentioned, the LL Cool J in his own oven. That was fun.
That was fun. Very fun.
But
we get into the Saffron Burrows.
We could talk about that.
The electrocuting Saffron Burrows, that one.
Yes,
I like that scene. But the standout from me, like the big, I touched on this, was just the whole thing with Stellan Skarsgård, like that whole entire sequence from when he gets his arm bit off.
Yes.
To when he gets thrown through the window. Like that is like the money of this movie, in my opinion. Like there's a bunch of, a lot of horror movies, they might have like one standout set piece or something from it that you think about. But this movie has like a solid handful.
It does.
That are all just really strong and exciting and fun and scary and just the way you want it. But it's still like ridiculous enough to not like it's not something you're ever going to be in that situation, that you can still laugh about and not feel bad. It's just wonderful. Those are my standouts from this.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would definitely say that scene because I was just watching it a couple of days ago because thanks, Shawn, gave me your little bit of login information. And I was able to watch this movie. Hey.
It is streaming on Max, by the way.
It is. It just started to stream on Max, but this is right before we were recording, and I couldn't like cut it. So
I literally was like, "Am I gonna have to get on Shawn's Vudu because I don't have it?" And I was like, "I'll see if it's streaming anywhere."
Literally,
I was like, it's on Max. Sweet.
Literally, oh my god, yeah, it just came on Max like in July. So yeah, but I was watching this. I made a whole list on Vudu. That's how I watched Eternal Sunshine. That's how I watched Back to the Future. It's a whole thing. So I will be happily going through that and watching it. But I did watch, and also we'll talk about the sequel in a minute, but like sequels. But yeah, no, I definitely think that scene, because that was the one where I was watching it where I was like gripped, and I was like, just, oh my god, like what's gonna happen? And then you're like, oh no, he like just gets fucking blitzed and killed. It's horrible and just horrible. Yeah, I definitely think. I also would say the Saffron scene, Dr. Susan scene, where she's like literally down to her underwear. It's very a little weird, not gonna lie, but
but the fact of a horror movie without some TNA.
Yeah, it's trying to. They don't go fully TNA, so that's appreciated.
And honestly, it does kind of make sense because she's standing on rubber. So she's trying to like ground herself because she's about to electrocute the shit out of this shark.
Sure, yeah.
So like, I will give it to it. Like, it makes sense in the movie. Yes, does it strip her down to her underwear? Of course it does.
Yes.
But like, it does at least make sense that she's trying to stand on something that's going to ground her more. So that way she doesn't get electrocuted when she pulls this cord out of the wall.
Totally. Yeah.
So I like it when a movie, like, if you're going to strip your characters, if you could do it, like, if it's depending on the movie, people could just be stripped for no reason, or if it's like for a reason in the film, like, that makes sense.
I think
like,
this is just for me. This is for me, but like, I am always okay with this. This sounds horrible, but y'all understand. I am okay with really any sort of male objectification a lot of the time. Because why the hell not? We do it to women enough, so we should do it to more men who are willing to do that, which is why I love that little Slumber Party Massacre remake. It's perfect.
Yes. Oh my God.
Like, that perfectly does it, because absolutely in the original one, like, it was there for the male gaze, and turning it on its head was amazing.
This one is for the male gaze. G-A-Y-S.
Hey, gaze, not the gaze. Yes. But yeah, I do agree that it's not completely male gazy because there's a reason for it. So I'm always a fan of like more for ogling the men, because we need to keep doing it to the women. I'm sorry, like we don't. You don't need to keep doing it. It won't stop, but like, I'm more okay with men doing it too.
And Thomas Jane has great arms.
Oh, I know, right? He is very hot. So again,
this is the hottest Tom Jane in my opinion,
right?
By far.
Yeah, totally.
And also, I do love the fact when you mentioned the objectification, I love the fact that Dr. Susan, the hot one, in quotation marks, she gets a different wetsuit than everyone else.
I know, right?
Two honest people get, like, he gets to show off his arms, and she's like, her leg, it's like she's in the one that's like cut to the knees and like cut down the arms. I'm just like, and shows off cleavage. I was like, I love the 90s.
Of course. We already talked a little bit about some themes of this film and all that. So I think the big themes that we kind of can look at in this movie are definitely just like ethical dilemmas and scientific research. I think we already talked a little bit about that like, was Dr. Susan correct in what she was trying to do? Maybe not all the way necessarily, like, was it ethical for her to like do this shit? But I also think, like what you guys were saying, like, she was trying to do better for the greater good. And, maybe the steps she took were not the best, but ultimately, she was trying to be able to cure a disease that is truly terrible and, really affects people. So yeah, there's definitely that. You have anything to say about like any more ethical dilemmas or anything? I think that's a big one you already kind of touched on.
Yeah.
You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. That is all I will say on the ethical dilemma.
Yeah.
I believe the ends justify the means for this one. Like, the only people she really hurts are literally the people there.
Yeah, true.
And I mean, you always have the chance. Like, you work with sharks, there's always a chance of problem.
I'm sure they had to sign a waiver.
They signed a waiver. Like, there's a chance you get eaten by sharks. Like, you're working with sharks. Like, no, you're never completely safe. Like,
right.
It's just one of those. I just every time I'm like, oh God, just let her live. Like, let her cure Alzheimer's. Let her have her podcast.
I know,
I was
right?
just sad that she lost the research. Like, that is to me the tragedy of this movie, that all this happened and she didn't even get to save her little research.
I know.
Which I would have been fine with if she got to live. Then she could at least kind of do what she did again under like better circumstances. Like, the minute she saw they were smart, she should have like killed them and then just processed the brain. But like,
right.
So like, yeah, that technically is her fault, but like, yeah, she was really trying to do something really good here, and she does not get to, like, that does not pan out at all.
Right. Totally. I think that's the big
Marks
theme
for trying.
Yeah, that's the big theme of the movie. I think is just like, was it ethical for her to even do this in the first place, and also just like, how the fuck do you survive these sharks that are now just really powerful and really smart? Whereas,
blow them up. That's how.
blow them up. That's yeah, exactly. So there's definitely
Tried
that.
and true way of getting rid of a shark antagonist.
Yeah, totally.
Bonus points if they roar.
Yeah, and the fact that you can have a little bit of that in there, but then also have this kind of still like, fun kind of, it's not schlocky. This movie's not schlocky, which is cool. But it's very like, but it knows what kind of movie it is. I don't think, obviously, having like that Samuel L. Jackson getting eaten by a shark in the the middle of a speech, like obviously they know what kind of movie they're making. Like they're not taking this super, super seriously, but they're taking it seriously enough, which I appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love this film. Sorry.
I agree though. Yeah, no, I think those, I mean, really, like, because I'm looking at some of the notes that I'm looking at. I mean, survival and human versus nature themes. I mean, honestly, like you're trying to survive this, so that makes enough sense. And I think they did what they had to do. And I also like how each one of the deaths happens, because I think they happen pretty organically, honestly, in a way. Again, you have the surprise of Samuel L. Jackson's character getting killed, but then also like all the other people, you're like, oh no, they were gonna get got anyway, So, and I think the people who survive, kind of cool that they do. I like that Carter and Preacher survive, and Susan could have if it was a different ending, I'm sure. And then the role of corporate greed and its consequences, we already kind of talked about that anyway. Again, it was for the greater good. And again, you got to break a few eggs, to make an omelet. Now that you both have at least seen both of the other sequels, I know the third one at least I can watch on that Vudu account. So
if you get on my Vudu account, you can watch the second one.
Well, I might just have to get that from you then. I don't know.
It's bad, but I do.
You don't really want to. Don't do it. It's not worth it.
Is it? I'll have to wait for it to stream on Tubi. But what are you guys's? I guess what are your guys's like? If anything, you just said what your thoughts are on the second one, but what do you think of those sequels, though?
The second one is real bad. Like
we agree on this. The second one is really, really bad, and the third one was surprisingly good. I wonder if I had Letterboxd when I watched either of those.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Looking.
But yeah, the second one is a sci-fi film, like 150%, like SYFY film.
Yes.
So I mean, it is the schlocky one. It's kind of, it's like the characters are just dumb as rocks kind of thing.
Right.
Like it is a horror, like a made for TV horror movie, basically,
and not even in the fun way.
Video. Yeah, I did not love it. I've watched it once and I was like, like I was expecting direct to video, but I wasn't expecting like direct to video. You know what I mean? Like there's some good direct to video films. But the third one, fun.
Do not have the second one logged. But I remember like it was really bad. So if I had logged it, it probably would have been like a 1.5, which is like really hard for me to give a movie that bad. But I gave the third one 3 stars, and it looks like Horror Queers together also gave it 3 stars. So yeah, see, the third one is decent. I'm seeing a lot of 3s, 3.5s.
Yeah, no, totally. That's what I've kind of heard. So maybe I'll pull up on that. And it's nice because I don't think you have to have watched.
No,
if you've watched this,
absolutely
movie,
do not have to watch.
Yeah, the third, they're barely tangentially
like together.
Related.
They're not like related.
Yeah.
So
like
it's fair.
they basically bring it up. That's it. Like, and it's for approximately 3 seconds. The second one is a lot of kind of the same as this movie. It follows a lot of the beats. I mean, I guess there's one surprising death if I remember right. It's not even that surprising though. Right. And then the third one is it's a different animal and just is more fun.
Right. Got it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll have to check out at least the third one, I guess, because it seems like that's at least worth the watch of it. I'm also planning, because I will be covering Night of the Demons like closer to Halloween, I think. And I'm probably, I love it too. I was listening to your guys' episode early back on a while ago about that.
Oh my God, that's one of the first.
I was like, I don't remember
if you go back to any of my old episodes, please. Oh my God. But I was listening to that because I do like that movie. And I know I can watch Night of the Demons 2, which would be cute. That's the one I do want to watch because apparently it's not that bad. The third one's apparently really bad though, so I'm not going to watch that. And that remake is awful. But But the first two, at least, are good
Oh,
times.
Night of the Demons 2 is really good. I really enjoyed 2. I think it might be my favorite of them. And I don't mind the remake. I know it's real bad and but just
Yeah.
having Monica Keena say
Oh, 100%.
she basically has another Freddy was fire and water
Water
with
with
Jason.
Jason.
She
How can
gets
we
another
use
one of
that?
those where she's like, Rust, how do we
So
use
good.
it? And I'm like, whoever wrote this was just like, we're getting Monica Keena immediately.
And
I'm
that's
here for it.
so unfortunate that her and Eddie Furlong were together at the time, and you're like, oh baby, no, oh gosh. Mm-mm. And then the girl from one of the girls who would end up, oh no, she was, no, we were talking about this, you and me talked about this, Shawn. One of the girls in that remake is also in the sequel that I do not like to the Texas Chainsaw remake, so she's in there somewhere. I think
Diora Baird.
Yes. So good times. I think in terms of the legacy of this film, though, so in a 2016 retrospective, Wired editor Brian Rafferty considered Deep Blue Sea, quote, the greatest non-Jaws shark movie of all time and superior to the movie The Shallows, which I have not seen. He remarked
I
that
also agree that it is superior to The Shallows, but I do really like The Shallows. But again, all my shark movie opinions take with a grain of salt, except for Deep Blue Sea. The fact that I am not hard on any shark movies and I'm like, Deep Blue Sea 2 sucks. That is how bad it is. But yeah, Shallows is great. Blake Lively is wonderful in it. The end is ridiculous.
He also remarked that within a genre that had been dominated by Jaws, Deep Blue Sea features genuinely inventive action sequences, nicely rounded out human characters, and memorable death scenes. And he also noted that the film was among the last of its kind, describing it as an R-rated B movie full of gore and chaos and smart stupidness, but with a big budget, big cast sheen. And in a similar way to Paul Verhoeven's Total Recall and Starship Troopers, Stargate from Roland Emmerich, and Luc Besson's The Fifth Element, Samuel L. Jackson's so he kind of referenced those movies to kind of show what this movie was kind of like. And a lot of people, as you know, surprise, his surprising death, Samuel Jackson's death, appears on a lot of lists as the best film deaths of all time, which I do not disagree. I think it's a good death that comes out of nowhere, but it's really fun. So,
and hilarious.
And very hilarious. It's just like, it comes out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh, this is the kind of movie we're watching. Okay. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I guess if you guys had to kind of decide, I mean, I feel like I just like asking the question because why the hell not? Even though my whole show isn't necessarily about this, but why do you think this movie has kind of gained the sort of following, this little cult following that it has? I mean, what do you think maybe that has happened? I'm sure I have a few thoughts about it, but I want to hear what you guys maybe think.
I wouldn't even consider this a cult movie because I think this is great and everyone should love it. And I thought this was just a big banger. The fact that we're talking about it as a cult movie almost offends me. This is amazing.
Listen.
Who doesn't like Deep Blue Sea?
No, totally. No. The cult movie is not a dirty word in this house, obviously.
Oh, no, not a dirty word. But I'm like, I love a cult movie, and it's like, oh, these are just for me. Nobody knows about them. And that's not what I feel like Deep Blue Sea is. But it gave me the excuse to talk about it, so I'm not going to quibble with definitions. Shawn, do you think this is a cult film?
I think in some ways it is. It's not quite as a cult film as I would say Night of the Demons would be, or something,
or Sharknado, or something.
Yeah, in this one, it's, while it did do well at the box office, and people talk about it, it was kind of not completely maligned at the time, but a lot of people were just like, oh, it's just a B movie.
Yeah.
And now that it's really I think in a lot of ways, some cult cinema, it's also films that were not appreciated as much as they should have been at the time of their release, and it's something that their esteem has grown, respect for the film has grown, just how much we talk about it has grown. I mean, and it could be anything from Jennifer's Body as a cult film to Deep Blue Sea is a cult film.
Yeah.
Like people enjoyed it at the time, but like a lot of people are just like, oh, it's fun.
People did
but,
not
like, it's
enjoy
not the
Jennifer's
song fun.
body at the time, Shawn. We were.
Oh,
you
no,
did,
I'm talking Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
I saw it opening night, and loved it. But like Deep Blue Sea is like, yes, it's something people love, but a lot of people kind of wrote it off as just a shark film.
I agree.
And now that a lot of people are really like retrospectively looking at it and being like, oh no, this is a great shark film.
Yeah.
Not just a good one.
Yeah,
so
totally.
I think, in my opinion, that's where the cult comes into play.
Yeah, or why it has a legacy, I think, too. I think that's the other part of a cult film, too, is that sometimes when it comes to, again, you asked 5 different people what their definition of cult films are, and you'll get 5 different definitions. But, in my view, too, it's also a movie that may have had like a long lasting impact or like some sort of legacy to it. That's why I think something like Romeo and Michelle is like a cult film in a way, because it's had this legacy that's kept on, or any of these other things. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Shawn, mostly because we're just shutting Clayton out, I guess. But no, I do think like this movie like absolutely has like this sort of B movie part to it. Like, it's not super schlocky, but it's not taking itself super seriously, which I appreciate. And I think that it's really just trying to have fun with the genre and not be something that is cookie cutter shark movie or anything, because how can you remake Jaws? They already tried that a bunch. And I think this one does carve out a bit of an interesting little niche in that. And I think Renny Harlin, he's generally a pretty good director, all things considered, with the first Stranger Things he did. But, I do like Dream Master, and I do like this film. And I think he is somebody, maybe because he's Danish and he's not American, he wants to see something a little different. And he wants to, be a little more creative with stuff. And so I think he definitely did that with this film. And also, too, like, the guy who wrote this, like, it meant something to him because he was like fucking traumatized from something he saw in Australia. So he was able to turn that into something cool. And Renny Harlin just helped him do that too, by being able to direct this fire ass movie. So I guess if we had to kind of, wrap up a little bit, do our Jerry Springer final thoughts on it. What are your guys' like final thoughts on Deep Blue Sea?
Oh, go ahead, Clayton.
I mean, like I said, it's my favorite shark movie. It's a 5-star film in my book. I've got the letterboxd receipts to prove it.
Right.
It's great. It's fun. A little schlocky, not too much. I just think all of the ingredients here are just like perfectly seasoned, and it's a marvelous way to spend an hour and 45 minutes.
I agree.
With a kind of amazing needle drop at the end.
Oh, I know. Oh, Cool J. Fuck yeah. Good time.
For me, this is my second favorite shark film. Jaws will always be my favorite. I love shark movies. I love creature features, and Deep Blue Sea is just—it's so much fun. I love in a movie where like the sharks are being total dicks to people. I'm here for it. I'm here. I'm seated. I'd buy the ticket. I would love to see this on a big screen one day.
Yeah.
Or like one of those theaters where they're like, you're in the water and you're like watching Jaws. Like, that's what I want to do. I want a double feature of Jaws and Deep Blue Sea. That'd be
100%.
I want to see Jaws on the water so badly. One of my Twitter friends, one of the hosts of the Every Romcom podcast, said one day she took her laptop in the bathtub and watched Deep Blue Sea in the bath and said it was a marvelous time.
I love that for her. Good for you, girl. Love that. Well, you guys, thank you so much for coming on the pod. This has been such a fun conversation. Got to talk about this movie, tried to dissect it a little bit, and I thought it was a super good time. Like, it was so fun. So thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Any fucking and time you want.
Yes. So please plug your show. Tell people about what you guys do on your podcast. And plug your socials and all that fun stuff.
So our podcast, Men Who Like Movies, Shawn and I go back and forth every week picking a film that we want to talk about and think deserve to be talked about and want people to know about, with a bunch of really fun guests. like you, Jesse, from Cult Cinema Circle right here.
Yes.
You can find the podcast like anywhere you get podcasts, pretty much. Just search Men Who Like Movies. You'll probably be the only one.
Probably.
That'll be there. So it's easy. But if you do need a handle on most of the socials, it is at Triple M Pod with 3 M's. I am on a lot of the socials. You can find me. I'm at Just Happy to See You, number 2, letter C, letter U, pretty much everywhere. But I'm most active on Twitter. That is where I'm the most entertaining. Shawn, tell me your shit.
I am on all of the same under Murph the Smurf, MurphyTheSmurph.
And then go listen to our respective episodes about Ravenous and also The Crow. You all were fire on it, so it's great. And also, because I want to be a good friend, please pull up on their Patreon if you want to hear them talk about newer movies and stuff.
Yes.
I'm not on your guys' Patreon, but every so often, every month, I just like throw the same like 5 people, sometimes money, where I'm like, girl, that's scary. I want to hear some bonus content. This ends at prom. I want to hear some bonus content. Sometimes horror queers. I'm like, here you go. So I may throw you a couple of dollars to see what you all have to say about some films and all
our
that.
Patreon is very fun. Please check that out. Patreon.com/Triple M Pod with 3 M's.
Yes, and these will all be linked in the
Thank
show notes as well, of course. I might do a Patreon at some point. I just don't know when yet. Why the hell? I have enough shit to do. So.
Yeah, extra work, Jesse.
yeah, but it's fun though. Yeah. And of course, you can always follow the show, Cult Cinema Circle, on Instagram at Cult Cinema Circle, and then on Twitter at Cult Cinema Circle, and on Letterboxd, I'm at Jesse Kremp, JESSE, all one word. Email me at cultcinemacircle@gmail.com. Give me a 5-star review and a 1 to 2 sentence review on your podcatcher of choice. So people can watch my show and shit and like listen to it and everything. I will say for next week, we're going to be going a little different. We're not going to be covering a horror movie. We covered Harriet the Spy last week, and now we're doing this movie. But next week, we're going to be doing a little film that is also celebrating 25 years, and it is a movie that is called Trick from 1999. Have either of you seen this movie?
Oh, I
have not, but I've heard it's a very like iconic classic queer film. So
it's so good. It's so good.
It's Nev Campbell's brother, isn't it?
It is. It's Nev Campbell's brother.
It is Christian Campbell.
He's in Reefer Madness the musical. And it's him. It's the same guy. It's a gay who is the same guy who did the Lizzie McGuire movie. He also directed that. So good times, man. Like that's what we're gonna do. So it's a fun time for sure.
Hell yeah.
And as always, thank you for taking the time to listen to the Cult Cinema Circle podcast. And remember,
that's the answer to the riddle, because that's what an 8,000-pound Mako thinks about freedom, about the deep blue sea.
Take care. Bye.